Yeah.
Father God, as Sian brings us your message this morning, will you bless her words and our hearts and our hands? Lord, we know that she's talked with you and walked with you in preparation for this morning. And we know that there have been some things that have happened that have ensured that this message comes to us this morning. We thank you for Sian and for your message. Amen.
Morning all. Just talk amongst yourself, I'll get myself organised. Okay. Oh, I will need my glasses because I can't quite read those notes from here. Oh, look at that. All right. Thank you, John, for bringing us that scripture. Just to get it in context. I always like a bit of context so that we know where we are in time and space, who the audience of this Bible reading was, what was happening at the time. I think we're very quick to impose our 21st century understanding on the scriptures, which are very ancient documents. So we've got to sort of take a step back and have a look and see what this would have meant to those people who were there at the time. So John tells us about what was happening at that time. I'd like to rewind at least a week before that, when Jesus was in Nazareth. And probably all of you are familiar with the events at the time where Jesus goes to the synagogue, presumably on the Sabbath. He's asked to read the scriptures. He reads a passage that says God has chosen me to preach good news to the poor, to heal the sick, to set the captives free. And then he says, today this scripture has been fulfilled in your presence. A bit of a bombshell. And he's soundly rejected and driven out of town. As they say, no prophet is accepted in his hometown. So Jesus now goes away from that place. He goes to Capernaum. Now, we don't know the time frame. It was obviously at least a week earlier because it was the Sabbath, and here we are again in Capernaum on the Sabbath. So it could have been a month. It could have been 6 weeks, but it's at least a week. In any case, he goes to Capernaum, which is roughly 35 kilometres north-northeast of Nazareth. Sizable place, somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 residents, perhaps 1,500 if you want to take the average. It's on the shore of the Lake of Galilee, very, very large body of water that behaves more like an ocean. It's a place where there are dual cultures. You've got a very, very strong religious Jewish culture, numerous synagogues, and quite a profound religious life going on in that place. There's also the Hellenic culture, the Greeks, who have this extravagantly pagan lifestyle. But their customs influence the manners, the dress, the architecture, the political life. So they're very influential in that place. Capernaum eventually becomes the centre of Jesus' ministry to the entire region of Galilee. This place would have had lots of small homes, fairly crowded place, but also possibly some larger homes because the fishermen there could make quite a good living. We always think of Jesus' fishermen disciples as being quite poor, but chances are they really weren't. Chances are they were making a good, comfortable living out of fishing there. And of course that included Simon and Andrew, the sons of Jonah, and James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were business partners at that time. So Jesus in Capernaum, he teaches in the synagogue on the Sabbath. This could have been Friday night. You know how the Jewish Sabbath starts at sundown on Friday? So this could have been a Friday night church service. People are amazed by his words. He speaks with authority. He heals a man possessed using only a command. Now, people are absolutely amazed, saying, what words are these? Why would they have been so amazed by that? Because demon possession back then was not uncommon, and exorcisms were not uncommon. The Gentiles, as in the Greek community, used incantations to get rid of demon spirits. They would often call on a higher spirit to get rid of a lower spirit, so lots of flowery incantations. The Jews tended to use some sort of magic that was associated with Solomon back in the day. Or, as an alternative, they used smelly herbs and roots to try and get the person to gag and get the spirit out. So basically vomit the spirit out. So Jesus comes along and gets rid of these unclean spirits with a command. They would never have seen anything like this before. Words of authority. It's like me just saying to my dog, out. Yeah, I wish. But that's the effect Jesus has on these spirits. Out. So the news spreads throughout the area. The word's spreading. Who is this guy? He speaks with authority. He gets rid of demons with just a word. This is something new. This is something special. So here we are now in Capernaum. And after church, this could still be on Friday night, he is at the home of Simon. And he heals Simon's mother-in-law. So what does this tell us about Simon? Simon, of course, is the person who later we know as Peter, the disciple. The home of Simon implies that Simon is in fact the head of this home. There's no mention of Simon's father. We happen to know that Andrew lives with his brother Simon because in the account from the Gospel of Mark, it actually says Jesus went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. So we know that Simon and Andrew, their brothers, live together. We also know that Simon is married. You don't have a mother-in-law unless you're married. Kind of goes with the territory, doesn't it? He's probably also quite young. We always think of Simon as a weather-beaten middle-aged man. Chances are he's actually not. He still has a mother-in-law who is living. Now, given that the average life expectancy for a male back then was about 50, we can't place Simon in his 50s. We have to place him in the next generation. So chances are he is in fact quite young. Of course, the disciples would all have been young. When teachers and sages took on disciples back then, they tended to be early 20s, late teens. So if you can imagine a gaggle of teenage boys with Jesus, motley crew, slapping each other, that's probably more the picture we're getting. So yeah, Simon probably was the oldest of the disciples because he did have a bit of a leadership role going on there. What else do we get from this passage? Simon's mother-in-law lives with them. Chances are she's a widowed lady. And that was common practice, that a widowed mother would come and look after her. So. She had a fever. Now, fevers were very common back then, and they had various causes, but the most common cause in that region would have been malaria. Now, malaria was a severe and recurring disease. And it didn't disappear just like that, funny enough. So the word would have got around. Jesus would have gone, tells the fever to go, and Simon's mother-in-law is here, just like that. And then at sunset, this is possibly the following day, because when the Sabbath ends, people are allowed to bear loads carrying other people, but not on the Sabbath. People are bringing their unwell to Jesus. And he lays his hands on each one of them and heals them. So what's the big deal with healing in this society? Well, this is the ancient Near East, and medical practice is not particularly impressive back here. It's a little bit what you might call hit and miss. Some of the practices at the time included health spas, where you go along and you have a modified diet, lots of rest and some massage. Not such a bad idea, not necessarily effective depending on what the problem is. But there was also brutal surgery and some very odd cures recommended, like being dumped in the river in winter, or getting covered in mud and sitting outside, or walking around in the middle of winter with bare feet. There were some very body cures recommended by the physicians at the time, who were not regulated, needless to say. So the truth of the matter is that if you were sick, in a word, you either lived or you didn't. It was that simple. If you were injured, disabled or chronically ill, you were stuck with it, pretty much. And you were also probably considered cursed. And that's why people who keep chronically ill, disabled relatives tucked away, out of sight, because there was this sense of shame and curse on the family if something like that happened to you. But along comes Jesus, and he heals with just a touch of his hand. And it's effective, mind you. So once again, there's interest. The word's spreading. Who is this guy? Remembering that this is a deeply religious people in Capernaum. They would have known their scriptures. They would have known about the promised restoration from Isaiah 53, which alludes to a spiritual healing and a physical restoration. And it's a foretaste to the promised time when the kingdom would come and God would restore his people and nature permanently. There's also shades of the healing miracles of Elijah and Elisha, which they also would know about. So everybody would have been thinking, there would have been excitement, there would have been talk. Jesus also continues to drive out demons with just a command. Interestingly enough, he insists that they keep quiet because they know who he is. Demons, of course, move in the spiritual realm. They would have known full well who Jesus was. Interesting thought. Why doesn't Jesus want the people to know who he is? It's a really good question, isn't it? Maybe there were some implications for his ministry. Maybe he doesn't want to alert the authorities just yet and cause problems. Maybe he wants to keep a bit of a lid on this brewing excitement and talk because it might have implications for the length of his ministry or the effectiveness. I'm not 100% sure, really. You can say, objection, Your Honour, speculative. I'm doing a little bit of speculation here. The other thing is that he possibly wants them to figure it out for themselves who he is rather than being told. Now, if you read Matthew 16:16, where Jesus is with his disciples and he says to them, who do the people say I am? And they say, some people say you're John the Baptist, some say you're Elijah, and some say you're Moses. And he says to Simon, otherwise known as Peter, who do you say? And he says, well, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. And you can just feel Jesus' excitement at that time. You can feel him going, yes, you get it. You finally get it. He's worked it out for himself. He's watched, he's listened, he's learned, and he's worked it out. And that's when he says, bless you, Simon, you are now Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Awesome. So maybe there's some value in people working it out for themselves. Don't know. Again, objection, Your Honour, speculative. Anyway, continuing with the story, Jesus withdraws to a quiet place. Now, in this culture, privacy is really only possible if you get up at the crack of dawn before everybody else. And most people were up at the crack of dawn. These people were very much, their lives were ruled by the cycles of the sun. But in a particular house, you would have a lot of people cohabitating, extended family. And also the dwellings were quite close together. So if you wanted privacy, you had to go and find it at some time when everybody was still asleep. So Jesus withdraws to the quiet place. But not for long. Everybody comes looking for him. We've got a guy here who can cast out demons with a word. He can heal with a touch. They come looking for him. They ask him to stay. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? But Jesus is very clear. He needs to keep moving. He knows his purpose, his raison d'etre, and he needs to do it. He needs to proclaim the good news of the kingdom of God and keep on preaching. That's what he knows he needs to do. So that's a little potted version of what's going on. But let's have a think about what's going on here. You can start to feel the excitement building. There's a vibe. There's There's an excitement in the air. There's a bit of hype, perhaps. Jesus is, in fact, becoming quite an item. A bit of an item of speculation, perhaps. So the word's spreading. People are starting to seek him out. Chances are everybody wants a piece of him. Now, fast forward to today, perhaps everybody wants to get a selfie with Jesus. I don't know. But everybody wants a piece of the action. Perhaps something to gossip about with the neighbours when you're up on the roof in the evening. Talk to the neighbour across on the next roof. Oh, I saw Jesus today. He's becoming the talk of the town. Maybe people are enjoying having bragging rights, having had something to do with him or getting close to him. Maybe the local gossips and reporters are looking for the big scoop story. There'd be speculation going on. What do you think about this guy? Do you think he might be the one, the promised one, from Mawson? There'd be the fans. Oh, yeah, he's got to be. Just look what's going on. Yeah, he's definitely the one. You'd have the detractors. Oh, come on, Ethel, don't be ridiculous. Of course he's not that side. People would be falling over each other, climbing trees just to get a glimpse of him, as we see later, Zacchaeus. Or pushing and shoving, trying to get close enough, just to touch the hem of his garment. That happened later on as well, didn't it? If you can imagine, fast forward to Jesus' entry to Jerusalem, we've got shades of the Beatles arriving in Adelaide. Perhaps girls screaming and fainting, lots of excitement, lots of hype. So Jesus is starting to attract a whole lot of maybe rock star type attention and rock star type status. And don't you love the paragraph headings in the Bible? Of course they weren't there in the original manuscripts, but the new translations divide the Bible up into nice manageable chunks with little headings. And the heading here is First Preaching Tour. I love it. Jesus goes on tour. Jesus, the rock star. Let's have a think about the life of a rock star. Now, Percy can tell us probably a bit about this. Percy's an old rock star from way back. So, rock stars, they're constantly running on adrenaline, right? It can be quite exhausting. There'd be late nights where you're still on a bit of a high in the wee small hours of the morning after the performance. So maybe you need something to help settle you to sleep. Enter alcohol, enter sleeping tablets. But you've still got to be up in the morning to get on the tour bus. So you need something to get you moving. Hey, coffee. What about a bit of cocaine? Yeah. And the next thing comes the addictions. And then we hear about the rehab. So much for the glamorous life of a rock star. The celebrity lifestyle might actually look really attractive. But, as my number 2 son put it so beautifully once, reality can be so disappointing. It really can be, can't it? Why is reality disappointing? It's because it's so easy to lose perspective. Like, actually, who am I? And what is it I'm trying to achieve here? And it's interesting that not just rock stars have a tendency to lose their perspective. Some of you might know that I run a flying school. And for me, it is a constant source of angst. If you ask Dallas, he'd say, it's a bit like living with a roller coaster. Sometimes I'm on such a high when my students are doing well and everything's going well and they're passing their tests and they're getting their licenses and it's great. And then my competitors over the hill buy a 152 Aerobat and start to take the same market that I'm aiming for. Next thing I'm talking about, shutting down my parafield operation, moving to the Eyre Peninsula because that's where the work is. Dear idea. Anyway, I know one day I rang a friend who's got a really good head for business and had a big rant, and he asked me some important questions. This is an atheist, incidentally. He just said, look, you need to be clear what you want. What do you want? You're letting the business run you. You're supposed to be running the business. You're talking about shutting down the local operation, leaving your home and your family and moving to the Eyre Peninsula. Is that what you want? Very good questions. I sat down and I did some thinking about that. I thought, actually, what do I want? I don't want to work 8 till 6 every day of the week. I want to be able to spend time with my boys. I want to be able to read and do my writing and preach. And I'm also part of an SES unit. I'm the training coordinator. I want to be able to do that too. And I really like occasionally just to do the housework and have a tidy house. And I'd love to have a neat garden. It is overrated, I agree, but it would be nice, wouldn't it, to have a nice environment to live in? Maybe I shouldn't be thinking about working myself to death just so I can keep up with the competitors on the other side of the world. Yes. You know, people, it can happen just as easily in church activities as well, not just our day-to-day work lives. We can get carried along by this great tsunami of adrenaline and enthusiasm or mission, or we can get distracted by the business and the tasks and the responsibilities and the rosters. Don't start me on rosters. Oh, we can easily forget our purpose and just burn out. The question is, how do we even know that all of this frantic activity is in fact what God wants? How do we know that? Have a think about the army. We all know about the army. They go into battle. After the skirmish, what does the army do? The army withdraws. Takes time to rest the soldiers, regroup, reformulate the strategy. Absolutely vital. The army knows that fatigue is a very, very real issue. It is a potentially fatal issue. It impairs judgment and people start making mistakes. When you think about it, we too are at war. Our enemy wants nothing more than to turn us from our true purpose, and distraction is a really effective strategy for doing that. It doesn't have to be some amazing thing to turn us from our purpose. Distraction is quite enough. Something can look really attractive, but it can distract us from our real purpose. Satan says, all of this can be yours. But we have to take a step back and remember that Satan is a liar and the father of lies. And things aren't always what they seem. So Jesus here shows us the way to do it. He deliberately, regularly withdraws to a quiet place where he can think, where he can reflect, he can regroup, and he can regain his perspective. He can also pray, which doesn't mean going through the shopping list of what he wants. It means spending time in the presence of his Father, which gives him the refreshment and the strength he needs to continue, and also renews his clarity of his purpose. Clarity, really important. And this is a recurring theme in the Gospels. In the next section, stay tuned, I think Chris is going to be preaching on this, it says, Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. In the previous section, Jesus withdraws. In the account given by Matthew, Jesus withdraws to pray. Jesus withdraws to pray. The thing is, the Father is unable to influence or direct us unless we sit still and shut up. Sometimes you just got to sit still and be quiet before he can influence and direct us. So we also, whatever it is we're doing, whether it's our busy lives or a ministry activity, we need to withdraw and spend time in the presence of God, just as Jesus did. An interesting thing happened last week. I don't know whether many of you know that in this congregation we've got a watchman. That's a spiritual role. The watchman who keeps watch over the people, who knows their strengths and their struggles and their joys and their sorrows and their needs. Now, when you have a spiritual watchman in your midst, you pay attention to what he's got to say to you. So he sidles up to me last week and he says, "What are you preaching on next week?" And I say, I don't know. Chris hasn't told me, hasn't given me a passage. And he said, well, let me tell you what these people need to hear. He said, I'm aware that there are a lot of people in this congregation who are struggling and they are trying to do things in their own strength. This is the message they need to hear. Coincidence? I think not. Jesus says in the Gospel of John, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I suspect what he means is nothing that has eternal significance. So if you are running around trying to do everything in your own strength, whether that is in your day-to-day occupation or in a ministry activity, you're going to end up exhausted, defeated, frustrated, and probably very ineffective. There may be a lot of frantic activity and a lot of movement, but you might find there's nothing happening that's of any lasting significance or value. How will you even know that you are doing what God wants you to be doing unless you take the time to ask Him? What does my Lord require of me? It's a good question. It's probably the question when we think about it. Regrouping. Even non-religious people know the value of regroup. I've got a chum on the Eyre Peninsula, a cow, a guy called Nick, and he's an oyster farmer, married with 4 kids. So his life's pretty hectic. Now, where can you find Nick last thing on a Sunday afternoon? Down at the local. He's down at the local having a beer and regrouping. And that's his time to reflect on the week that was, the decisions he's made, the things he's done. What worked? What didn't go so well? What do I need to do differently? And he plans the week ahead based on his reflection. Now, this is not a religious person, but this is a person who knows the value of taking time to regroup. And if you ever want to have a beer with Nick, at least you know where to look. People, we need to regroup. We need to spend time in the presence of our Father. And I know it can be difficult. I've been there, done that with small children, and it's a hectic life. And we need to rely on others sometimes to give us just that little bit of space in our day to withdraw and regroup. It's just so important. Our spiritual lives depend on it. And our general well-being also depends on it. So, if you take nothing away from today at all, apart from this, take this. Withdraw. Go to your quiet place, whatever that is. Even if it's a lounge chair with a cup of coffee for 15 minutes in the morning, go there. Regroup. Reflect. Think. Pray. Spend some quiet time in the presence of your Father, listening for His voice. And come away with a restored perspective, clarity, refreshment, and strength. Amen.